For decades, Big Garden has convinced people to damage their soil, kill beneficial insects, and become completely dependent on their products just to grow a tomato. And somehow we have all accepted this as normal gardening. Today we are exposing 7 of the biggest gardening lies ever sold to homeowners and explaining what to do instead. Let's start with the misrepresentation that basically built the entire modern fertilizer industry. I'm sure you're all aware of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. It's on the label of every fertilizer as if it's the main thing that you have to feed your plants in order to succeed. In reality, plants and lawn need about 17 essential nutrients, macronutrients and micronutrients, but they don't need to be fed direct NPK. In fact, more important is healthy soil full of life, mycorrhiza, bacteria, protozoa, good fungi, good nematodes. That is the microbiology in your soil that can access all of those nutrients. And many times when you're just feeding NPK, your soil has no way to access the NPK. Having microbial life in the soil can even create the macronutrients and the micronutrients that you need. So we like to focus more on what we call soil-based gardening, less on analyzing every single micronutrient that's missing. If we can build healthy soil, all of those things will balance out. Unfortunately, one of the most common spring gardening rituals is also one of the fastest ways to destroy what we're trying to create. And that's healthy soil. Propagated by the rototiller industry is this myth that you need to till every spring, and maybe every fall, and maybe every summer. There are some appropriate situations where you would want to till, and that's when you're just getting started and maybe you know you have compacted soil or you know you have very hard soil, maybe construction's just ended and everyone was running on it and running equipment over it. On a one-time basis, it is a good idea to either rip as deeply as you can get down or till as deeply as you can get down, but not almost turn it to powder every year. What you're doing is you're breaking up the soil structure. The soil structure we want to be more crumbly, not powder. Powder compacts a lot easier than a good soil structure. The other thing it does, which I don't think is understood very well, is it rips apart all these fungal networks that we're trying to build, and you're pretty much ruining your soil. You're turning your soil into lifeless dirt. Big Garden didn't stop at soil. They also convinced us to declare war on almost every insect in our yard. I would run into people who say, let's just do a general cleanup. Spring is starting, let's go around our house and let's kill everything. So we come up with this clean, desirable landscape with no insects. Unfortunately, that's a really, really terrible idea. Here's an amazing fact. 97% of insects in your garden are actually good, neutral, or pollinators. And if you try to kill everything, you're probably going to have more problems with the ones that aren't good, because beneficials will help you immensely against things that aren't beneficial. Beneficials are things like bees, ladybugs, parasitic wasps. The industry found early on that it was easy to come up with insecticides that were just broad spectrum, and those were the most popular ones because they were the least expensive to produce. But those are really damaging. We don't want to be spraying broad spectrum pesticides. Instead, we want to be very targeted and strategic about how we go about controlling problem pests and diseases. One of my favorite ways that I've talked about a lot is with beneficial nematodes. That goes back to the soil, and they're tremendously effective. This whole soil-based gardening idea is fantastic for controlling insects because of the number of pests that start in the soil, about 75%. So if we have lively soil, we're starting to get rid of those pests at an early stage, at the larvae stage when they're still in the soil. Now wait until you hear what's inside most bags labeled topsoil, because this one honestly feels like a scam hiding in plain sight. Real topsoil takes about 500 years to form. Topsoil implies there's biology in it and that there's good life in it. And the reality is the topsoil that's sold in most stores, especially box stores, is dead dirt shipped all over the country with nothing beneficial in it. Sometimes it's screened construction fill or sand, but not real topsoil, because topsoil infers healthy, lively soil. So you'll need to be aware of that and need to add things like compost, or our products work really well, or compost tea, and now you've created something in that combination we could market as topsoil. Then there is the premium natural product that gardeners have been told to use for decades, despite it taking thousands of years to regenerate. Peat moss environmentally is a problem that a lot of people are aware of. It is, in many cases, really good for soil, but it takes 10,000 years to make peat moss, and the harvesting processes release a lot of carbon that's not good environmentally. For mass soil amendments, there's a lot better ways. Cocoa cores, a good quality compost, those things are superior to peat moss. The only time I still recommend peat moss is associated with like planting blueberries, because peat moss is a good amendment that is very acid. Blueberries is one of those few fruits or vegetables that really prefers almost an abnormally acid soil, and it's hard to get that acid except if you use something like peat moss. After scaring you about your soil, Big Garden found another genius business model. This is really a pet peeve of mine, and that is convincing you that every plant needs its own special product. That's not good gardening, that's just good marketing. You don't need to buy 10 or 12 or 15 different products. What you need to do is focus on the health of your soil. I like to focus on just a few products that you can use for everything, because everything will perform its best if you focus on your soil and not focus on certain NPK ratios for certain crops. Soil then can allow plants to uptake what they need, and if you're doing that, your soil will balance itself out in a way that is best for almost every plant. Okay, Chip, we're ready for you. If Chip and I just saved you from buying 3 bags of Premium Shrub Booster Ultra Bloom Plus for your strawberries only, click subscribe. The next slide may have completely shaped the American suburb into an ecological dead zone. I'm not going to come out and say this is absolutely right or wrong, but I'm going to get into some interesting facts. We know that lawns take the most resources in terms of water and even nutrients. It's difficult to make lawns sustainable. One of the interesting things to me is that many years ago, even when I was just starting out, clover was a part of almost every seed mix, because clover is really great for soil and great for fixing nitrogen. In other words, it takes it out of the atmosphere and makes it available to soil and plants. Now, clover is considered a weed by most people, and I think that's because the chemical industry discovered that their weed killers, mainly the ones with 2,4-D in it, killed clover when it killed other weeds. And so they convinced everyone that clover is a weed and it's a good thing to kill. But I like this idea of expanding your vision of a lawn. If you want a monoculture, okay, follow our rules for really building your soil in healthy ways and having all kinds of complex life in your soil. And that's the best way to have a healthy monoculture. Monoculture means one kind of grass. You know, it can be done somewhat environmentally responsibly, but it's difficult. So I like just expanding our senses a little bit and considering alternatives to lawn, maybe even things that bloom and feed insects and bees and such, which most monoculture lawns don't. At the end of the day, a healthy garden was never supposed to depend on a garage full of products. Nature has systems for building soil, feeding plants, controlling pests, and creating resilience, and we hope sustainability. The best thing we can do as gardeners is stop fighting those systems and start working with them. If you want to see what a yard looks like when it's designed around biodiversity, check out this video right here. We tour an incredible native plant garden that's buzzing with life.